video, we are replacing the leaky steering rack. We're gonna have to take off this line, low pressure line, top pressure line, the bracket right down in here, and then come down here, release our tie rods and the brace up underneath, which I'll show you once we get the car jacked up. We're now going to jack the car up, put it on the jack stand. I already got the other side done. Alright, now that we got the wheels off, it jacked up, we're going to go up underneath. And we are going to take our 17 millimeter, and we are going to loosen this bracket. I loosened that one a turn and a half to get to wiggle. And same on this side. Loosen that one a turn and a half, but we're going to remove this one and this one. 17 millimeter. Alright, now that I removed the 17 millimeter bolt from this side and that side right there, I swung the arm in on both sides, and now we are going to take our 14 millimeter and we're going to unbolt 1, 2, 3 on this side, 2 right here, 2 right here, and then the remaining 3 on this side. And remember to use a wrench on one side and your ratchet on the other side, because these like to free spin on the front too. There's 12 of them all together. Alright, now that you got that plate off, you have access to your actual steering rack now. Now we're going to take a 12 millimeter and take the sway bar things off on both sides, so we can move the sway bar out of the way so we can get easier access to our tie rods, and so we can drop the steering rack down. Alright, now you got the sway bar off of both sides. We can push it down. Now we're going to move on to the tie rod. Right here is a 19 millimeter castle nut. You have to pull the cotter pin out first, then remove the castle nut. What the trick is loosen the castle nut to where there's only 1 to 2 threads left, then tap on the tie rod ever so slightly to release it, to release the tie rod from the knuckle on both sides. There's the cotter pin. I already started loosening and bending the cotter pin to release it out. All I gotta do is pull it out and untighten the 19 millimeter castle. Alright, now the tie rods are out. We are going to go up above the CV axle to the steering shaft. Undo this 12 millimeter bolt that connects the steering rack to the steering shaft. Now we need to take off this 10 millimeter bolt right here that has the low pressure line right here. Undo the bracket right there and pull the clip right here off the hose. There's going to be some leakage there. And then we're going to go up front, follow the high pressure line down and end. Oh, it goes into a banjo on the end of the line. We remove those and then go underneath the car and finish removing the 6 14 millimeter bolts down below. Alright, a little tip: once you take this 10 millimeter bolt out and unclip the clips right here and right here, there's a 10 millimeter bolt right here that holds the reservoir on, and right here. It's easier to undo those, pick it up, and then take off the hose for the low pressure side. And 14 millimeter banjo boat, high pressure line. Now we gotta come over here and release this clip right here to separate high pressure line to another low pressure line. Alright, now that we got the hoses undone from, like, find them here, from up there, they're sitting, chilling right up in there. Now we're gonna come up and remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and pull the whole steering rack out. Be wary. The boot with this bolt. Press the boot in and over when you take it out, so you don't rip your boot on both sides. It's on both sides. Be wary of that.
So what is it?
Steering rack.
That's the steering rack?
This is steering rack. Steering wheel goes right here. This connects to the wheels. The hub. Problem lies within here. We're gonna undo these two, pull this apart, slap new seals on, and put it back in. Now we have to go into the steering gearbox right here, take out the two, I believe it was 12 millimeter studs, and separate it, and go in here and undo this clip, and this is a 10 millimeter to separate these lines from the actual steering rack to get to our two seals. Everyone had to take these two off. Alright, we got that off of here. Once we undid the two bolts, I literally had to start with a small screwdriver and pry up ever so slightly. But my problem was the whole shaft came out of the steering rack, so I had to put it back together. And then stick this in here, pry ever so slightly. Once it started to come up, I took a sledgehammer and tapped this. Once I got that out, there's a circlip right here. We had to take this out to replace this seal right here. That's the bigger seal out of the two seals. The other seal is located right in here. So you had to go in from the back side, and it's right behind that ring with the two dots in it. Alright, I went through the top right here. I stuck a socket, I think it's a 15 mil. It's actually a 16 mil, I think. Yeah, 16 mil. You can also use a 5/8. I stuck it in the hole right there and hammered it. I mean hammered it for it to pop out. And this is the orientation it popped out of. So the spring itself, if you see the spring in there, is to the spacer. Up inside of the steering shaft itself would be the flat surface right here. So this is up towards the steering wheel, this is down with the exposed spring down towards the steering shaft. Alright, for a steering shaft one, we pull this off. Remember your orientation. All three is up and then the thick part down. There's a key cutout right there. It fits into a groove in the back of the steering shaft right here, so it can only go on one way. And as for the seal itself, just remember your orientation. As you see it, the spring is sticking up towards the car. Peel this off. And the white line is down towards the shaft. So it sits in like this.
So you put the new one on?
Yep. Put the new one on, slid the spacer on. Here's the old one. And now to the top. There's also an indentation where the spring sits. So you know you got your orientation. Now that I have everything put back together in reverse order of this video, I chopped it off while it was still on jack stands. I put fluid in there, moved the wheel from side to side, side to side, side to side until all the bubbles were gone. Topped it off once again, dropped it back down onto the ground, started it up, went back and forth. Maybe 3 bubbles came back up, topped it off once again, and now we are good. No leaks up here. No leaks down there. I hope this helps. Enjoy.